Hey guys, Jeff here with Passive Income Unlocked. So if you're starting a brand new site, you might be trying to figure out all the things you need to do right to grow your site and succeed. But sometimes it's actually better to look at it from the other side and say, what mistakes do I need to avoid to succeed? So that's what I'm going to look at in this video. I'm going to go after 7 common reasons why niche sites fail. So let me pull up my list real quick here and we'll get started. So number 1 is simply giving up too early. So I actually did this with my first site, which I started about 7 or 8 years ago. So at the time, I was playing a lot of guitar. I had been playing for many, many years, both right-handed and left-handed. So I assumed that I was very knowledgeable in the niche and it'd be a good one for me to go after. So I created a site, wrote about 20 to 30 posts, really beefy posts, let them sit there for about maybe 2 or 3 months. Didn't see any kind of traction. Then I just gave up. So in my case, I actually left my domain and hosting open for a year because that's what I'd paid for. And then I looked back after that year and saw that I actually was making a little bit of money and did get some traction and traffic as well. So I just gave up too early, and that was before I even knew what I was doing as far as building sites. So this is a very common thing that a lot of people do. They'll get super motivated up front. They'll put in all this effort, and then they don't see any traction after a few months, and they just close their accounts down and they just walk away and just assume that it was a scam and they just failed. If you just go to work day after day, month after month, and you just keep posting, and you're just patient, and you know ahead of time that it's going to take probably each article 9 to 12 months before it starts to get some traction, you can get ahead of a lot of competitors that way. So number 2 on my list is targeting keywords that are simply too competitive. So a lot of smart marketers out there will tell you to go after high volume keywords or medium volume keywords. They have good reason to do this. So for one, it's easier for them to rank for these keywords because they have authoritative sites. And 2, it's a lot easier, a lot more attractive to sell something like going after high volume keywords than it is to say go after low volume keywords, right? But in reality, these higher volume keywords are also highly competitive. To rank for a highly competitive keyword, you need backlinks. You need big backlinks, in fact. So if you want to build backlinks to your site, you can definitely do that. There's a lot of ways to do it. Does add some risk depending how you go about it, and it also takes a lot of work. So what I like to do instead is I just go after low volume keywords because they're lower in competition. It's not really about the volume, it's about the competition. But typically your lower competition keywords are going to be lower in volume, so that's what we go after. But we don't build any backlinks. We just create the best content that we can around these lower competition keywords, and then we just let it rank organically. And that's how we build our sites. So another mistake that a lot of people make is targeting keywords with too low volume. So I just told you to go after low volume keywords, or that's what we do, but there's such a thing as going after too low a volume of keywords. So if you think about in just about any niche, there's always going to be some obscure keywords that, or obscure phrases that people search, right? So those obscure phrases might show up in Google autocomplete just because they got searched maybe 5 or 10 times a month or whatever. But in reality, you don't want to go after too many of these keywords that only get 5 to 10 searches per month. It's okay to go after some of these early on, and they can actually help you rank by getting a little bit of user engagement on your site, letting Google start to judge your site. What you don't want to do is write 100 posts and only target these super, super long phrases that almost no one searches per month. And after 6 months or a year, you've got 100 posts on your site, but you only have a trickle of traffic because you didn't go after anything with any kind of search volume. So targeting too many of these super low volume keywords is definitely something to avoid. So number 4 on my list is picking the wrong niche. This is a really big one, so I'm going to break it down into several different ways. So the first way is targeting a niche that's too small. So let's say, for example, that you like to go fishing on Lake Tahoe. So for me, I would say, okay, the niche is going to be fishing, but if you're new to this, you might say, okay, I want to create a site around fishing on Lake Tahoe. The problem with that is it's very, very narrow, and you're going to quickly run out of keywords to write about, topics to write about, and when you do, you're not going to have anywhere to turn. So instead of doing that, what you would want to do is make your niche about fishing in general, and then you can still write content around Lake Tahoe, but then you can shift to other lakes or other types of fishing like fly fishing, ice fishing, and so on, instead of being boxed in by something like a specific lake. Another one, as far as picking the wrong niche, would be something that's trendy. So if you think of trends, you can think of things that are short-lived. A lot of times these would be things that are in the news, can last a few days, few hours, weeks, months, sometimes even a few years. So something that right now most people wouldn't say is a trend, but you can consider it a trend for what we're talking about, which would be the pandemic. So the pandemic's been going on for about a year and a half now. So it's starting to go, it's on the downward slope, obviously, at this point in time. But that's still something you wouldn't want to build a site around. If you build a site around a trend, yes, you might get a bunch of traffic at some point in time, but that traffic could go away just as quickly. The next one, as far as picking the wrong niche, would be a declining niche. So a declining niche is basically one where if you pull up trends.google.com, you're going to see that the graph looks like this over 5, 10 years or whatever time period you're looking at. So a good example for this would be, or a couple good examples would be CDs, which, people went from CDs to MP3 players. So CDs obviously have declined significantly over the years. And then a lot of you will probably remember MySpace as well. There's a lot of tech-related products and services that have declined over the years. So that's actually a good one. If you're going into tech, just always check trends.google.com and just see, is that niche declining over time? If it's going down like this, it's something that you probably want to reconsider. So another one, as far as picking the wrong niche, would be something that's too authoritative. So that would be the YMYL niches, so your money or your life. These would be things that are centered around health or finance. So if you are not a dentist, do not create a site around dentistry. Google wants to see proof that you're a dentist. They might want to see that you have a business and an actual location, with an actual address and some credentials and so on. And even then, it's going to be difficult to rank in the dentistry niche. But my point is, those are really, really difficult to rank for, especially with the changes that Google rolled out over the last couple of years. So you're much better off staying away from those niches that affect somebody's health or their finances. So the next one, as far as picking the wrong niche, would be something that might be social media based. So just think of things that are really visual. So maybe something centered around fashion or home decor. And I've not looked into these niches in particular, so there might be good keywords there. I have no idea. But if you think about fashion and home decor, you're probably thinking about a lot of traffic that's going to come from sources like Pinterest, right? If your main traffic source is Pinterest, that's something you want to stay away from, especially right now, because Pinterest is definitely on the decline. Another one to stay away from, as far as picking the wrong niche, would be something that's not easily monetized. So let's say you want to build a site that's around violence or drugs or something like that. It's going to be very difficult to monetize. I mean, there's almost always a way to monetize a site, but if you want to make top dollar, you're going to want to go to the top ad networks or the top affiliate networks. And in those cases, it's going to be really hard to get accepted if you're going after something that's not family safe, family friendly. All right, so that's number 4, and that's a big one, like I said, picking the wrong niche. So on to number 5, which is going too broad too soon. So if you watch this channel, you know that part of our strategy is to always go broad with your niche selection. I always say go broad and always think big, but I also say think big, start small. So we'll use fishing as an example. If your niche is fishing, what you don't want to do is just start writing about any keyword, any topic within fishing. Instead, what you want to do is pick a sub-niche and then go after that. So let's say that you're going to say fishing is my niche, so you're going to come up with a domain name centered around fishing, but your first 100 articles are going to all relate to ice fishing. After you write those 100 articles, then you're going to move on to fly fishing. After you write all the articles you can on fly fishing, then you're going to move on to spear fishing, and so on. So by doing this, Google, even though your domain name is centered around fishing in general, they will think that you have a ice fishing site, or whatever the first one was I said, right? Because all your first articles are going to be around ice fishing. They're going to think you have an ice fishing site. You can become an authority on ice fishing in Google's eyes. And then you start to gain some traction in Google search, and now you expand on to the next one, and then they will broaden their scope as far as how they view your site. But by that point in time, you've already started to gain some traction, and then you can start gaining some more traction. You can keep expanding outward. So you want to think big, but start small. So the next one is number 6, and that's not posting enough content. So this can mean 2 different things. First would be not posting enough articles on your site. So there's a lot of people that you'll see in comments, they'll say, like, I posted 20 articles on my site. They've been ranking for 6 months, and I only have 100 page views a month or something like that, right? But the problem is, if you only have 20 articles, you're not giving your site enough chances to succeed. So you have to really think about this like throwing darts at a dartboard. So if you throw only 20 darts, you're going to have a hard time hitting a bullseye. If you throw 200 darts, you're probably going to hit several of them. So that's the key. You want to throw as many darts as possible. For me, even if I'm thinking about building a small site, which I really don't do, I would still consider 100 articles the minimum, even on a small site. You have to give yourself enough chances to succeed with the site because you are taking a lot of shots. You can do all the research you want. Anybody will tell you this that's built a site. You can do all the research you want. You're going to be surprised on some articles that are winners that you wouldn't expect them to be, and some that don't rank that you would think would rank really easily. So give yourself those opportunities and make sure you put enough content on your site. The other way of not putting enough content on your site would be to just not putting enough words within each article. So it used to be where you could write really short articles on some topics and rank really well. That's become more and more difficult over time. For my team, we tend to stay 1,000 words or above on all of our articles. Sometimes we go up to 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 words. I have written some articles personally that were like 500 to 700 words that have ranked. But I'm telling you, those were keywords that had literally zero competition, and they were very, very small volume. And it's not even something I do anymore. I definitely highly recommend staying above at least that 1,000 mark. Again, there's going to always be exceptions to the rule, but you want to make sure you have enough words within your articles and enough articles on your site to give yourself a chance to succeed. So number 7, which is the last one on this list, is not knowing enough about your niche. So this doesn't matter if you're writing your own articles or if you're outsourcing your articles. You still need to know something about your niche to succeed. And I'll backtrack for a second. You can definitely succeed without knowing something about your niche. I'll just say it's a lot more difficult. So if you don't know anything about your niche, what can happen is you can do a bunch of research. I've done this. I've definitely done this. You do a bunch of research on something you don't know much about. You write the articles, and then 9 months later, 12 months later, when you're finally getting some traction to those articles, people leave comments and say, you don't know what you're talking about. You clearly have no idea what this is about. Or you said this when this isn't true and it's supposed to be this. The problem is those things aren't going to come out until your site actually starts to rank. So if you're putting all your effort into creating a site around something you don't really know anything about, you're not going to find out until you start getting that feedback from your users. And that's going to be maybe a year down the road. Same thing if you're outsourcing the content. It could be the same thing where they create the content and then you get that feedback a year later. But even aside from that, it's going to make it very difficult for you to edit the content and check the quality. If you don't know anything about the niche, how are you supposed to know if they're actually doing a good job with their research and their articles that they're producing for you? So again, it's much, much easier if you know something about the topics that are going on your site, even just a general baseline knowledge. All right, so that is my list. 7 common reasons why niche sites fail. I will tell you that if you head over to passiveincomeunlocked.com, I've got an article with 16 reasons, so there's another 9. I want to keep this video relatively short. That's why I only showed you 7, but there are 16 of them total, so definitely check that out. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up and the subscribe buttons below. Also, don't forget that bell icon if you'll be notified of future videos. And again, like I said, if you head over to the website, I've got a lot of blog posts over there. I'm posting a new article every single week. A lot of that content is not going to be found in the videos that I'm posting. So guys, thanks as always for watching. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the comments as well. And I'll see you in the next one.